German Romantic lieder and jazz standards are shockingly similar. Both genres, developed by altering pre-existing forms, are largely tonal and share thematic content around lost love and nature. Autumn Leaves and Linden Tree both encapsulate the similarities of these genres. Romantic era music and the music of the Jazz Age were eras in which rigid structure was rebelled against. Romantic era and its rebellion against the status quo. The Romantic period was characterized by the expanding of form, the broadening of subject matter, and the development of means to express imagination and originality. Haberman 6. That was largely in reaction to the rigidity of the classical age and the age of enlightenment, where logic and structured form was put above all else, even if they were malleable. We can see this through Schubert's deviation from the norms of the string quartet by adding an extra cello. He created a string quintet, altering the tradition and rigidity of what should be in music. Jazz music came from a much less rigid background, but was nonetheless about altering the status quo and using creativity to create your own forms. Jazz musicians took well-known songs and reharmonized them with added 5 chords and jazzed them up with temporary tonicizations. Compare the original changes of I Got Rhythm to the modern changes most jazz musicians use. If it's in B flat, it would go B flat, G7, C, F7, and then D minor, G7, C minor, F7. Repeat that, eventually with a temporary tonicization of the 4 chord. In the original rhythm changes, there were no dominant 7 chords outside of the traditional F7 that's local to the key center. But the changes are largely similar. Throughout, though, you can see composers creating incredibly different heads, such as the Charlie Parker head Anthropology, the head Dexterity, Nomo. They're all incredibly different, all largely syncopated, but very much their own pieces of work. Just examples of the malleability of structure in the Jazz Age. Both lieder and jazz standards from the Great American Songbook contain similar tonal and phrase structures. Both use a 2-bar phrase structure. Look at the chord chart of Autumn Leaves' A section versus the chord chart of Der Lindenbaum's beginning. You can tell they're both kind of built around a repeated melodic motif with kind of an antecedent and a consequent phrase. And that's just a building block of pretty much any piece of music is call and response. You can see it anywhere. I feel like people like to talk about the Romantic era and jazz music like there was absolutely no structure. But throughout both, you see motifs, you see shared rhythms throughout the kind of eras. It's still has a language and a structure, even if what's remarkable about the eras is how they twisted structure. Again, both pieces are tonal, and throughout the piece, they modulate and temporarily tonicize different keys. In Autumn Leaves, they modulate to G minor and E flat, versus Der Lindenbaum modulates to E minor from E major. Through this, we can see how both genres used a minor key in contrast with a major key to create an emotional feeling in the listener. Autumn Leaves, I'd say, isn't quite as impactful with it because it's a bit more subtle, because it's the relative minor instead of the parallel minor. So it feels more natural. Versus Der Lindenbaum, when it modulates to E minor, it really makes an impact of whoa, this is sad. Lieder and jazz also share a lot of thematic content. Both the Linden Tree and Autumn Leaves reflect autumnal imagery and use it to create nostalgia for the past. In Autumn Leaves, it's the falling leaves drift by the window, the autumn leaves of red and gold. In Der Lindenbaum, it's by the well before the gates stand a linden tree. In its shade I dreamt many a sweet dream. In its bark I carved many a word of love. Again, equating lost love, nostalgia, with that of the seasons changing, where memories of past selves and past lives come back for everyone. So as we can see, German lieder and jazz standards shared many traits, including, but not limited to, rebellion against rigidity, a shared tonal structure, and thematic content. Romantic music is often seen in stark opposition to jazz, classical music in general is. But through the exploration of these themes, it can be seen that the two genres are more similar than different. They're both tonal music with lots of nostalgia that embrace creativity and melding of forms.